Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Table Talk. I'm your host, Jake Combs, and today we're taking a look back at the GI Joe Roleplaying Game. Now, we've gone pretty extensively into these two books over multiple videos, and by far, I would say that this is probably my favorite role-playing game that we've reviewed. Just absolutely loves it. The mechanics of it, everything about it. My only complaint about these two books is just that simply there wasn't enough content for the world as a whole, because GI Joe still remains to be one of my all-time favorite intellectual properties. But that changes today, because the folks at Renegade Games actually sent us, Renegade Game Studios rather, sent us the three latest books. We have the Quartermaster's Guide to Gear, the Cobra Sourcebook, and Ferocious Fighters, Factions in Action, Volume 1. With, at the time when they sent this, Factions in Action Volume 2 was in pre-order, and it should be on the way to us shortly. And then as soon as we receive that, we'll be going over that one as well. So starting with Ferocious Fighters, Factions in Action Volume 1. Now, immediately, I hate the name. It is way too long and difficult to say, but let's take a look inside. Now immediately, just in table of contents, two of my favorite GI Joe sub-factions, Tiger Force and Python Patrol. When there used to be actually a GI Joe mobile app, mobile game, I was actually part of one of the largest factions in that game, under the name of Tiger Force, and met some of my best friends there. And I still talk to those guys, and that we're talking, close to 15 years ago. Love the artwork there. Beyond GI Joe versus Cobra, and just going into in depth, just more about the world itself, and Joe's Tiger Force, and shows them actually taking some of Cobra's weapons or in this case equipment, and painting it over to be Tiger Force in order to use it. So it kind of allows them to spread out and use new equipment that they weren't able to use before. And I don't remember Jinx ever being part of Tiger Force from the comic books, but she definitely looks great in the Tiger Force stripes. And then, just by page 22, we really start going into the actual rules for different characters, or different types of characters rather. We have the Environment Specialist, the Heavy Hitter, the Tiger Force Leader, Pilot, Safeguard, Skirmisher, the Tiger Cat, Tiger Paw, Tiger Ram, and so on. All of them with the classic Tiger Force logos. And then we go into Python Patrol and do the same thing. Now, obviously, Tiger Force would be GI Joe, Python Patrol would be Cobra. Now, the Python Patrol in the comics, the paint style that they would use would actually prevent them from being seen on radar. I don't remember the specifics as to why, but that was the purpose of it. Now, not a big fan of this artwork right here. It looks kind of goofy to me, but whoever they had do this one absolutely just nailed the vibe. And personally, Python Patrol of the two factions was my favorite, but that's also because I've always preferred Cobra over GI Joe anyway. And I know that traditionally in the comics and such, or especially the cartoons, Cobra Commander is kind of whiny. Absolutely love that Major Blood right there. Just some fantastic looking artwork, and I love the callback right here to the GI Joe animated movie. Still love that movie. I still watch that every once in a while. I mean, Cobra Law, Anti-Venom Task Force, the Dino Hunters. This is bringing back so many freaking memories of the toys when I was a kid. Kind of makes me want to go and pick up some more, and it gives you rules for each of those different groups. So that way you can actually play them and expand. I mean, hell, we even have Nemesis freaking Enforcer, one of my all-time favorite GI Joe villains. And always loved his look. The action figure was kind of goofy, just because the wings were never scaled appropriately to the rest of his body, and never stayed on very well. So like you could never actually make him glide effectively unless you like tied him to a string and then hope for the best, and maybe use super glue to keep the wings on. Globulus as well, loved that guy. Hell of a villain. Pythona though, she was the shit, not gonna lie. And she was by far one of the best characters in that entire movie, and so glad that they actually brought her into this and gave her rules, because I know that with my Garrett, when we play again, I am going to be bringing Pythona into this. I mean, right there, that book, absolute freaking win right there. Cannot wait to see what the others have. All right, so now we're on to the Quartermaster's Guide to Gear. Now, me personally, I always have a really hard time remembering all of the vehicles and weapon names and things like that within the entirety of the GI Joe universe. So my expectations here is that this is going to do it all for me, because I won't have to actually remember any of that. And so let's see if I'm right. All right, so welcome to the Ultimate Armory. I mean, just right there, right out the gate. I mean, it basically tells us that this looks like it's going to be exactly what I'm looking for. Now, that missile right there looks very reminiscent of the missile from the live-action GI Joe movie, the very first one, the one that kind of basically started eating at the Eiffel Tower and things like that. Now, if there was actually one in the comic books that was very similar, I just don't remember it. And then we have more of the different roles: Junker, Broadcaster, Rocket Scientist, Leadfoot. I love that they used Thrasher for that, because he absolutely was a Leadfoot. Shipwreck and Polly for Seafarer. Another great call out, love that guy. Wild Weasel, Lady J, got Crocmaster. Crocmaster though, I don't really see him working so much as part of a class, or as an example, just because, you know, there really was nobody like Crocmaster in the comics or cartoons or anything. He was kind of just a beast unto his own. But you know, Technostalgic was the character type, and they also give Wild Bill as the GI Joe example. So I like that they do break this down into examples of characters that would work for both sides under that type. And then, ooh, I like that right there, the false face for the Fred series that they were using. Instead of relying exclusively on the actual plastic surgery. Now, this guy right here, I do not recognize this guy whatsoever, but it looks like it's just a regular Cobra Trooper made to, you know, basically be Nemesis Enforcer without the wings. Totally dig that. I always forget this guy's name, but in some of the comics, when he's done right, he's actually pretty cool. But here we go, getting really into the stats and skills that you can have, and then by chapter 2, page 33, we really get into the armory, and shows how available they are, their types, their details, their descriptions, and go in depth. Now, it makes sense that there's a lot less pictures in this one. Jetpacks, aquatic operation equipment, all kinds of things like that. Really digging just kind of the chaos of that shot right there. Just absolutely nailed it. mean, there's just so much in here, and I mean, it's just gonna really gonna expand the games themselves by so much. Like I would say, like exponentially. You know, you have just so much detail here, just with items and abilities, new vehicles that you have available. That honestly, I don't see a lot of need for expanding so much on the role-playing game books going forward as far as items. Just in that, like, there's so much just contained in these 4 books we've already looked at. I mean, we still have one more to look at right here, and then in the coming weeks, looking at another as well. So a lot to get through with all of that. Just going through the different vehicles, tech through time. I mean, looking at that picture, definitely looks like, you know, maybe doing like a futuristic version, or kind of have them use time travel. Now, the mechanics of this game do also work with the Transformers game as well, so you can actually use that in conjunction. Now, there is a book that actually bridges them together. I don't remember the name of it. I am hoping that we can actually get a hold of a copy for that, and if we do, that really opens up the timelines and the different things that you can bring in. I mean, also bring in the Power Rangers role-playing game, which I believe uses the same mechanics as well. And just because of how the mechanics are done, though, I've seen people actually successfully, you know, bring in those other games without that book, and have them work together, because it is, you know, an established canon that we've had GI Joe and Transformers work together against Cobra and the Decepticons, and so, you know, definitely have a lot of potential there, and really looking forward to checking that out. Now, I am not familiar with any crossover that has ever actually been done with the Power Rangers, and I believe My Little Pony might also work through that book. I know it uses the same base mechanics as well. So just something to at least consider. Now, I am actually a My Little Pony fan myself. I know my kids all have been as well, and so that could actually make for some really interesting games. You know, dealing with you know, the Dreadnoughts, dealing with a bunch of My Little Ponies. I think that could actually be quite hilarious. And now on to our last book, the Cobra Sourcebook. Now, this is the one I'm the most excited for. Now, I have not looked inside here. Obviously, there's no shrink wrap on here, but I have not looked inside. You know, basically, my expectation based on this book is I'm expecting rules for playing as Cobra, with stats for the different characters and types and stuff like that, which matches with a lot of what we saw in the previous books that we just looked at, because I believe this actually came out before those other 2 did. My memory is that this was the 3rd book to be released, followed by the Quartermaster's Guide, and then Ferocious Fighters, I believe. But definitely dive in. So again, my expectation is we're going to see rules for playing as Cobra, and just basically just leaves out the base mechanics, and actually make it a ruthless character determined to rule the world. If that isn't information about creating your own Cobra character, at least to be as a player, then I don't know what is. Great Cobra Commander art right there. Classic Cobra wants you. And definitely got to go to Baroness in the Castle. Love it. And actually, one thing I like right here, just like the intro to the book. I mean, it starts out as a classified document to General Hawk from Scarlet, about intelligence picked up by Cobra and some of the things that they're up to. I mean, I literally just saw a couple words stand out. It sounds like clone with the DNA of history's greatest conquerors. Anyone that is a fan of the comics as well as the animated series will know that that is Serpentor. I believe Serpentor was in the animated movie. It's been a while since I've watched it. I need to get back on that and watch it again. But if I remember correctly, actually, I'm 100% certain it was now, because I just remember Flint basically took was about to take one of Serpentor's snakes to the chest, and Duke jumped in the way and took the shot instead. So yeah, I mean, this builds up to the them getting Serpentor. I'm betting we're going to see rules for Serpentor in here as well. And then one thing I actually forgot to mention that I love about these books that they did a great job. Notice that right there? That's a nice little ribbon for keeping your place. I love when these hardcover books come with that built in. It definitely makes for a much better reading experience, in my opinion. So let's go ahead and take a quick look. Now, I don't remember Tombstone being a character at all. I'm guessing he might be one of the newer GI Joe comic ones, which I'm not fully up to date on those. I know that most of them were still done by Larry Hama. Now Image Comics has actually picked up the IP and are doing a Scarlet and a Destro run, as well as just a general GI Joe run. I don't know if Larry Hama is involved with those either. Hoping that they keep him on board. But I know that Devil's Due run still remains to be my favorite GI Joe series of comics. Red Ninja Striker, Golobulus again. Oh, that is a great shot there of one of the Dreadnoughts with a Red Ninja and one of the Vipers, I'm guessing. Kind of looks like the Merc guy from Sergeant Slaughter's Renegades. Might have been him before he defected to G.I. Joe. Oh, we got Cesspool. Love that guy. The Skullbuster. That was one of my favorite figures, I remember, from back in the day. Obviously, Cobra Commander. We got Copperhead. We got Buzzer, Storm Shadow, Firefly. Zanya, Zartan's daughter. The Interrogator. I mean, all of these characters, just so many great characters to bring into this. You know, even more obscure ones like Raptor. I mean, I rarely remember him even showing up more than a couple times. Wild Weasel, Destro. Yep, we got Serpentor just like expected. Blackout. He was one of my favorites from the Devil's Due run of comics. We have Ozone, which I'm pretty sure he's a G.I. Joe guy. Crimson, I do not remember her at all. And of course we got the Baroness, Torch, Nagahide. There's Thrasher. We already saw him briefly. Gristle, I don't really remember. I'm guessing he's a Dreadnought. Dr. Mindbender, that guy is a character for sure. Costume has always been a little weird to me. But you know, hey, he's a kind of a crazy genius, and crazy geniuses will be a little on the odd side, that's for sure. Zartan screwing with Snake Eyes, Overlord, just general Cobra recruits. So, I mean, for the most part, this looks like, you know, having them be in your game as people to kind of fight against and deal with. But one thing I like also is with a lot of these characters, you know, using... Actually, these are all just character types, now that I look back. Distracted by the awesome artwork for all my favorite Cobra characters. Mara, I do not remember in any way. One thing I wish that we would see, which I'm looking for now and not seeing, is basically like first appearance. Like I would love if Renegade included the first appearance. So like when we have a character like Mara or Mara, whatever her name is, that I've never seen before, that, you know, if she's originally from one of the comic books, like maybe the IDW ones or one of the others, that I wish it would say that there, so that way, you know, someone that's like, oh, you know, here's a character, I want to know more about them, they can go check out that comic. Equipment and vehicles. So, you know, obviously we're going to see more of the Cobra specific equipment here. We've got the Alley Viper. I love that those guys had the shields. We got some animal perks as well to actually have pets, depending on the character you do. We got the Air Chariot for Serpentor. So definitely a lot of great stuff to include. And then we have Cobra campaigns as well. So, and since obviously I'm not reading through this as I'm showing you guys, you know, right off the bat right here, it does say a Cobra campaign lets players explore more character concepts than a GI Joe campaign. So this, my assumption is correct, that this absolutely is basically a book on how to play as Cobra. And then, you know, working with some of those guys. Now, Headman, he's one of those ones that was more of a real world type villain as working with Cobra. He'd never seemed more than like a drug dealer to me. So, you know, it's kind of one of my more least favorite characters, just because, you know, he didn't fit the just general vibe of the GI Joe universe. Now, obviously, you know, drugs are a thing even in GI Joe, but yeah, that's never really been their focus. Now, I love the topiary. I kind of wish that I had a hedge that I could actually trim like that now, because that is awesome. Terradrome, threats and rivals. So here we have threats for basically, you know, groups that you're going to be going up against: government agents, law enforcement, green shirt of different types, snipers and infantry, support, and then basically different tiers going up to rawhide, average Joe. So I really like how they broke this out, because now you have specifically for fighting against GI Joe, and I think this is absolutely amazing. The Toxo Zombies, those guys were awesome. As far as figures were concerned, I don't remember actually seeing any of them in the comics, but I know that they came out with cesspool as far as the figures are concerned, so I'm betting that they probably were at some point. Serpentor, there's Tombstone again. Got Aleph. Data Viper, Frag Viper, Hydro Viper. Here's more information about Headman as a contact. Hotwire, Lieutenant Claymore, don't remember him specifically. Meta Vipers. So just a lot of stuff, basically everything that you would need to play as Cobra in the role-playing game. And I am absolutely here for it. I mean, they absolutely just nailed the overall aesthetic and feel, and I cannot wait for my group to actually play as Cobra and you know, hunt down and try to kill some of those annoying GI Joes. So the team did a fantastic job, and again, can't wait to actually play the game with these. And like I said, this is by far one of my favorite role-playing games, and they just absolutely nailed it. And the cover art is just chef's kiss, you know, just freaking nailed it. And honestly, the same could be said with all of the covers that they've done so far, except for not a big fan of Operation Cold Iron as far as the cover is concerned. But I think that going forward, that most of what we're going to end up seeing is more books like Operation Cold Iron, where, you know, it's a throwback, you know, following one of the actual storylines from the comic books or the cartoons, and continuing on those stories, where you actually get to be, you know, your own Joe character or Cobra character, doing either side of that. So definitely looking forward to seeing what they do with those. And the fact that now that we have rules to play as Cobra, I'm expecting that going forward, those types of books are going to have rules for both sides. For, you know, if you're playing that same scenario as Cobra, this is what you're doing. If you're playing that same scenario as GI Joe, this is what you're doing. And imagine, as a game master, like playing it for two groups at the same time, where you have one Cobra group and one GI Joe group, where you're actually basically going back and forth with them, where, you know, one night you have Cobra taking a turn and going as far as they can, and then the next night you have the GI Joe guys going, see how far they can get. I think that would make for an amazing experience, and I really hope that we see something like that in the near future.